Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 32 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. In this episode, we are going to be talking about the 300 Win Mag and some pros and cons to the caliber and why it is not done yet. We are also going to be talking about flutes, fluting a barrel, and some surprising facts about why we don't do it here, and some things that you should take into consideration before you do it to yours. So without further ado, welcome to the show, but here we go. Well, we're excited to have episode 32 up and running. This has been a long-awaited and passion of mine to talk about, and in this episode, we're going to dive into a couple really good subjects. The first subject we're going to talk about is the 300 Win Mag. So we've been building custom rifles for quite a while, and there are some calibers that just fit a niche market really well, and for lots of different reasons. But what we find funny as the things change, markets change, new calibers get introduced, is that the new calibers have a way of trying to villainize or devalue calibers that have been in existence for a long time. And one of those that's sort of near and dear to me, something that I've had a fair amount of experience shooting and working with, is the 300 Win Mag. So the 300 Win Mag, or belted magnums in that class, now have become this caliber that everybody looks to. Well, we don't shoot that anymore because the belted magnums aren't as accurate, or they've got this laundry list of things that date the caliber as to why it's not relevant anymore. And the up-and-coming new calibers, which, by the way, come out every single year, have a way of trying to devalue what the industry has worked so hard to create really good product. And this isn't a bashing of new calibers conversation, and it's not stuck in 1960s technology conversation as to why change is bad. But the 300 Win Mag is one of those special calibers that I think deserves a second look and maybe some history into it and why it's so relevant still today. So right out of the gate, you see a lot of big 30 calibers coming out on the line, and every year there's something new coming out. For example, you've got the 30 Nosler, the new one is the 300 PRC, and I'm not quite sure how many calibers that the market can handle as far as every year the next and newest and greatest thing, but I guess that's what keeps the industry turning. But when you hear people villainizing or tearing down such a great established caliber like the 300 Win Mag, I wanted to take just a short period of time in the podcast to say, in a lot of ways, I think you have to take everything that they're saying with a grain of salt. So I am all for improvements. I am all for making something better and in stepping our industry and our cartridges forward. But I think change for the sake of change is sort of a bad thing. So you'll hear people say that the 300 Win Mag isn't accurate, or that the belted magnum cases are dated. And that part I agree with. You know, I think the design for what they were trying to do at the time was just cutting edge. But, you know, we have what we have. So we have this 300 Win Mag belted cartridge. One of the things that I love dearly about the 300 Win Mag, and why I think it's so relevant, that one of the first Magnum cartridges in the long action that we introduced and that we just finished was the 300 Win Mag. and we just finished up some testing with the ACE system on it. And it was one of our go-to calibers, the very next step when we went to long action. So my history with the 300 Win Mag goes back a while. I love the caliber, and I think it's relevant still today for so many reasons. So right out of the gate, the people that say that it's a dated caliber and that the belted magnums just aren't accurate, well, that's just not true at all. I think if you do some research, you'll see that the 300 Win Mag was the 1,000-yard bench rest caliber of choice for a really, really long time, and has actually set many records over the years. Now, is it the darling caliber of today? No, it's not. But you can't erase its history in bench rest shooting and how long it was around and how many people actually shot it. So for those that say that it can't be accurate, that's not true at all. The 300 Win Mags that I've built, some with as short a barrel as 20 inches to shoot suppressed in hunting situations, have been some of the most accurate rifles that I've ever built. We've built some rifles that were certainly quarter-minute guns, easy, and some that were supposed to be my personal rifles that wound up going to customers when they seen them perform. So we had one 300 Win Mag that we built here. It was my personal rifle, shooting 208 grain, AMAXs out of it. A customer had seen it, and we were shooting it a little bit, and he was like, I got to have it. So that caliber with a 20-inch barrel went around the world and killed just an outrageous amount of African game animals. I mean, it's been all over the country. And, as the customer progressed with it, and, I would get emails that it was the most accurate 300 Win Mag he's ever shot. That's pretty cool. The military has changed a lot of their sniper rounds over to the 300 Win Mag. So if it's good for that, why isn't it good for what we would use it for in both in competition, long-range competition, or in hunting? So let's break it down and talk about the competition side first, and then we'll go into the hunting side. Why is the 300 Win Mag still relevant? Well, number one, it's got a huge component base. So there's brass and bullets and reloading data from decades of information gathered on the caliber. Is it the fastest kid on the block? No. Can it be shot accurate? Yes. Does it feed and function? Now, here's a key word: feed and function. Out of a long action, really well? Absolutely. Almost flawlessly. Hence why the military's picked it up. It doesn't require special cuts on the bottom or extended box magazines and all the other things that are required. The cartridge design, the case, the shoulder, everything was designed to feed and function, which as a competitive shooter is really important. And done right with muzzle brakes or suppressors, appropriate stocks of weight, and depending on the bullet you want to shoot, will it reach to 1,000 yards? Yes. Will it shoot to a mile? Absolutely. Will it do it accurately? Without a doubt. We have a customer that we built some 300 Win Mags for that have shot Coke cans at 1,000 yards goofing around. And he shot one of the micro Coke cans, I guess one of the 8-ounce cans, since the regular 12-ounce cans were just too big with this beloved 300 Win Mag. And he built it heavy. The rifle probably weighed 18, 19 pounds, which in today's standards of competition-based rifles is pretty normal, and in some cases even on the light side. But I was always fascinated that the accuracy potential of the caliber and its history. When we get into the conversation with customers about calibers and caliber selections, I try to help and guide and just give some advice, but I always am cautious to tell the customer that I'm not trying to build your rifle for you. In other words, I don't want to tell you what to build. I'll just give you my honest opinion. And after I give you all my honest opinion, if you decide to go with a caliber that isn't one of my pet calibers, well, that's your choice. I mean, that's why we build a wide selection of calibers. But the 300 Win Mag, oh gosh, it's just a fantastic all-around caliber. For hunting applications, why is it still relevant? Well, we're getting ready to build another one for a customer that does a lot of traveling overseas to Africa. And one of the reasons why he stays with that caliber is because, as a hunter, ammunition is available almost everywhere. And so if you build a rifle that is new to market, or components just aren't that supported yet, and ammunition isn't setting on every Walmart across the country and every professional guide or professional hunter's personal safe, well, you are leaving yourself wide open for your rifle to show up to wherever you're going and your ammunition not to get there. That happens to a lot of people, and it recently happened to a custom rifle maker who was trying to promote a new rifle caliber. It was on another podcast that someone had sent to us. It was pretty good, but this stuff happens. I feel really bad for him because you don't want to wish this stuff on anybody, but this prototype rifle was supposed to go to Africa, kill a bunch of animals, and the rifle showed up and the ammunition didn't. That happens. And so if you really are a serious hunter, you have to take into consideration availability of ammunition, not just locally, here, hand-loaded, but abroad. If you're going to Alaska for a remote drop and you show up in Anchorage or wherever you're flying into, if you're shooting a boutique caliber, you might be in trouble if your ammunition doesn't make it. Or if you show up, in some remote part of Idaho or Oregon, Walmart probably carries at least Spear Point, the old Remington, green box of 300 Win Mag that'll get you through the hunt. But does it have the new 300 Sweetheart caliber, whether it's a 30 Nosler or the 300 PRC? Well, maybe not. Maybe 10 years from now, sure, but maybe not. So we finished testing the 300 Win Mag, and it's really, I've been waiting for this for a while. It's something that we've had in the works for about a year and a half. And Bruce at Bat Machine was testing one of the rifles out of his facility out there, and with just, match grade ammunition, not hand loaded. He sent me a text, and I asked him when he gets back from his trip. He's currently on a hiking trip, to send me some pictures, and we'll post it up on our website. But the first 40 rounds through the gun, 5-shot groups, 8 groups, averaged around a half an inch. That's 8 5-shot groups with factory ammunition. It's just one of those calibers that works. Works well, heavily supported, super accurate, has the horsepower if you want to knock down big game animals, and is relatively easy to shoot if done right. So when you see these Sweetheart calibers coming out, or the next greatest caliber every year coming out onto the market, I am not against them. But what I don't like to see is when they tear down existing calibers to build the reputation of the new one. They try to make irrelevant all the things that the guys 10, 20, 30 years spent their lives working and developing, trying to create these great calibers. And they want to discount them as, well, that was 30 years ago and this is now. But I think the 300 Win Mag and the belted magnums are going to be around for a long time to come. And I think if you're building a competition rifle and you want to look at a magnum, or you're building a hunting rifle that you just want that extra horsepower, gosh, it's just really a hard caliber to beat. Now let's talk about fluted barrels. To flute or not to flute? I guess that is the question. We had somebody ask why we don't flute any of our Krieger barrels. And it deserves a response, and we're going to share it here on the podcast as to the pros and cons of fluting a barrel. We don't offer fluted barrels here. when we were at the NRA show, there was a lot of custom gun makers around us that had all these special spiral flutes and little cuts that went down the length of the barrel. And, they look super, super sharp. And so I want to take the time on this podcast to answer the question as to why we don't flute barrels and some things that you should take into consideration before you have it done to yours. So if you take, for example, a non-fluted barrel, like one of the Kriegers that we sell here, the common thing you'll hear people say when they flute a barrel is they're trying to reduce weight. And then you also hear this other thing chirping on the other shoulder that it helps cooling faster because of surface area. Well, it does reduce weight. Does it help the barrel cool faster, dissipate heat faster? I don't know. There's not as much material there to do a heat sink, so maybe it cools it faster, but maybe it allows it to get hot faster. That part I'm not an expert in, but does it remove weight? Yeah, it does. Talking to Krieger, you might lose anywhere from 6 to 8 ounces, maybe. What do we do to reduce the weight on our rifles? We take 1 to 2 inches off the length of the barrel. It does the same thing. An inch of heavy barrel that we use can weigh 3 to 4 ounces, maybe a little more. And just by taking an inch or two off the barrel, we've reduced the harmonics of it, we've increased the rigidity, and we've reduced the weight and the balance point back to closer to the shooter, achieving the same process of reducing the weight several ounces to the rifle itself. But beyond that, the aesthetics part, here's the problem. When you flute a barrel and remove material from the outside of a stainless steel barrel, you open the bore. We were at Gordy Gritter's filming some of his gunsmithing videos, and I don't know if this is on, I believe this is in one of the videos that we actually filmed when it comes to truing or accurizing a factory rifle. You'd have to go on Gordy's website to see some of the different videos that he has offered, and they're great videos, by the way. But in the video itself, we put some lead slugs down some fluted barrels. And it's absolutely astounding when you go from theory to actual application of it, that when the lead slug going through the barrel would be tight, starting through the barrel, and as soon as it would get to the flutes, it would slide right through like there's no resistance at all till it got to the last inch or so, then it would tighten back up. Gordy, through all of his testing and evaluation, has said that it can be several 10,000s. So you're over swaging the bullet, making it really tight in the lands and grooves, and then you're loosening the barrel up on the bullet, sliding through 80% of the barrel, where gases can sneak by and all these other bad things can happen. And it happens on all of them. When you remove material from the outside of the barrel, you open up the bore on the inside. So take into consideration if you went and bought a muzzleloader, and you took it to the range and you were going to shoot it that day, and you put the patch and ball in and you start driving it down the barrel, and let's just say it's tight for the first inch, and all of a sudden it slipped right through to the bottom, and at the very bottom it got tight again. Would that give you a lot of confidence that rifle is going to shoot to its full potential, or would that throw red flags in the air that maybe something's not quite right, that something's wrong? The reason we don't use fluted barrels is simply because, in our mind, it's aesthetics only. And we try not to do anything to the barrel itself that can have a negative effect. We don't take chances that 1 out of 10, that 1 out of 15, 1 out of 20, I don't care what the number is. We don't want to take chances that by us doing something that's purely aesthetic, because it's not removing that much weight, and we can save the same weight and make that rifle even more accurate by just taking an inch or two off the end. But we don't want to do anything that has potential consequences to the finished rifle itself. And I can't see anything good happening out of opening the bore of the rifle. Think about it this way. You go to a restaurant and they have roasted chicken. And they tell you, hey, you can have the roasted chicken, which, by the way, tastes great but looks sort of plain. But we'll jazz it up so it looks like the fanciest roasted chicken on the planet. But you have to do this at your own peril because there's a small chance that tomorrow morning you're going to wake up not feeling real well. How many of you would order the chicken? And that's the concept that we use. I know that might sound silly, but that's the concept that we use when we look at different things that we do with the barrels. We're really picky on the Cerakote, how it's applied, to protecting the crown, to making sure nothing gets into the bore. But when it comes to fluting of the barrels, have we done them in the past? Yes. Have we built rifles that shot really well in the past? Yes. Do we do it, and have we done it in the last 8 years? No, we've stopped completely. We don't offer it at all. Because aesthetically it looks beautiful, but the potential of having a negative impact on the overall quality of the rifle is huge. So I can't picture it having any positive effect of any kind other than the potential of saving some weight. But I can certainly see where the negative effects can start to come into play. When that slug gets pushed through the chamber, and we're talking about a lead slug that's heavily lubricated, and you're forcing it through, and you're feeling for consistency in the tightness of the bore from end to end. So, for example, we're paying Krieger to hand lap this barrel from end to end, making those lands and grooves as concentric to each other as possible for the entire length. We're talking tenths. Beautiful. We can slide feeler gauges through there, and you'll feel the consistency of that barrel the whole way through. So you took the time and effort to do this. Then you flute it and open the bore diameter up the entire length of those flutes on that barrel. When that lead slug, if you want to try this at home, gets pushed through the barrel, you can feel it tight when it gets into the throat and past the chamber, starting into the lands and grooves. And as soon as that lead slug gets to where the flutes are at, it slides freely from one end to the other, and then it gets tight at the muzzle. If you get a chance to try this or spend time with a gunsmith that can show you this, or if you get a chance, maybe check out one of Gordy's videos. But to me, I always look at the pros and cons. I look at the fluting as something aesthetic that, sure, it's absolutely beautiful when they do the different spiral cuts and the different flats. And I mean, that stuff aesthetically is just really just artwork, when it comes to metalwork. It's beautiful. But as a shooter, I wanted to take some time to talk about this as to why we don't offer flutes and go into a lot more detail as to why and some of the negative consequences that it can have. So when you're considering your next rifle or rifle barrel, take some time to think about the weight and the length, the contour. You could always go with a little bit lighter contour if you wanted rather than fluting. Or like I said, what we'll do here is, we'll just make it an inch or two shorter barrel and we wind up with the same weight. Very seldom much of any loss in velocity. It's certainly not 100 feet per second per inch. But then we make it balance better. We reduce the whip. We increase the stiffness of the barrel. But more importantly is we're leaving the lands and grooves in the same shape that they're supposed to be in, not allowing the bore of the rifle to open up as we remove metal from the outside. So I'm not trying to say that don't buy flutes or don't flute barrels. That's your choice. We're just trying to share with you some things that actually happen if you choose to do this, and the potential of taking something special away from the rifle. Not guaranteed that it's going to happen, but the potential. So much so that we have decided years ago that we just won't offer it. On to some other news. We just redid our website. We did some updates on our custom rifle page as well as some other pages. If you get a chance and you want to read more on the ACE system, or if you just want to see the new website, we would love to have you come over and check it out. Our website's www.wolfprecision.net. We also wanted to give an update on the shooting school. We have a couple slots left for our school that is running 11 through 13 of October. This will be the last class that we will allow customers to bring their own rifles through that aren't one of our custom rifles. So we've ended the year this year allowing customers to bring their own rifles through the school, Savage, Ruger, whatever they would like to bring through. But next year we have a totally different format. We're trying to stay 100% suppressed. We're trying to think about the safety and other issues on the firing line. So for liability and safety concerns for next year, we are going to provide all of the rifles for the shooting school, unless you've purchased a Wolf Precision rifle, in which case you can bring that rifle, and we really do encourage you to bring it and run it through the 3-day course. That way you can get to know the rifle, get it stoked, start working with it in the wind. We can adjust the length of pull. We can get the scope set up properly. I mean, that's why it's there. And so the shooting school is going to take on a different role to support the customers that are purchasing our rifles. And for the customer that would like to come through and experience a world-class shooting school, we're going to supply everything so that you have a world-class experience while you're here. So we're going to supply rifle, ammunition, mats, bipods. And so the only thing that we have to focus on at the school is teaching. And to take it one step further, next year, of course, will all be suppressed. So we have suppressors for all of our rifles here, and the suppressors that we have are actually set up to fit on any of the customer-brought rifles that are bringing through one of our custom rifles. So it'll be a 100% suppressed firing line, which would be really nice for everybody attending as well. But if you would like to come through and shoot your own rifle, don't miss out on your last opportunity. We have a couple slots open for October 11 through 13. You can register online, or you can give me a call here at the shop. We'd love to have you. Now, next week's episode, we are going to be doing a special interview with Zach Purvis, and Zach does a lot with the Recon Sniper Foundation. So we have his interview scheduled. It's going to be happening tonight. We'll have it released on next week's episode. I think what Zach is doing for the Recon Sniper Foundation is awesome. We would like him to come on to the podcast and talk a little bit about it, share his experience as a shooter in the Marine Corps as well as a competitor. I've known Zach for a long time. We've shot together many, many times and against each other many, many times. He's a good friend and one great shot. So I'm looking forward to having him on the podcast. That will be coming up in next week's episode. So don't forget to check back in and listen to the podcast. There's going to be a great guy on there talking about a great cause that he cares and is so passionate about. And I would like to share that here on the podcast with you all to sort of get to know them and learn a little bit about what they do and why they do it. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook. We are at Wolf Precision Inc., as well as our website. It's www.wolfprecision.net to see all the cool stuff that's going on there. And if you have any questions, if you have something that you would like us to cover here on the podcast, we are all ears. Some interviews in the industry we got coming up. If you would like us to reach out to somebody and bring them on the show, shoot us an email. It's contact@wolfprecision.net. We would love to hear from you, some things that you would like to hear on the podcast. If you shoot us a question and we answer it on the air, we will send you a t-shirt or hat as our way of saying thank you for checking in and throwing out some ideas to us. My name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you are listening to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.